Kunjabihari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunjabihari. Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradhari. Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradhari. Yashodanandana Bhajana Ranjana. Yashodanandana Bhajana Ranjana. Yamuna Tira Vanachari. Jamuna Tira Vanachari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunjabihari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunjabihari. Jai Mr. Paramahamsa, Padudikacharya, Ashtottara to Sri Srimad Divine Grace, Srila A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada ki Jai. ISKCON BBT founder Acharya Srila Prabhupada ki Jai. Jai Om Vishnupad Paramahamsa Padudikacharya, Ashtottara to Sri Srimad Divine Grace, Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur ki Jai. Ananta Koti Vaishnavindi ki Jai. Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur ki Jai. Grantharaj Srimad Bhagavatam ki Jai. Samaveda Bhakta Vrinda ki Jai. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glory to Sri Guru and Gauranga. Narayanam Namaskritya Narang Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayamudire. Before reciting the Srimad Bhagavatam, which is our very means of conquest, we should offer our respectful obeisances unto Lord Narayan, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, unto Narayan Rishi, the supremest human being, unto Mother Saraswati, the goddess of learning, unto Srila Vyasadeva, the author, and unto Srila Prabhupada, the translator, commentator, and our spiritual master. Nashta Prayesha Bhadreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavatyuttama Shloke Bhakti Bhavati Naishtiki. By regular attendance in classes on Srimad Bhagavatam and by rendering devotional service to the pure devotee, all that is inauspicious within the heart is destroyed almost to nil, and loving devotion to the Supreme Lord, who is glorified in transcendental songs, is established as an irrevocable fact. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. On this 8th day of June 2020 in SanDiego, we're reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, translation and commentary by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. And we are in Canto 4, the creation of the fourth order, Chapter 24, chanting the song sung by Lord Shiva, text number 44. A lot of fours there. Darshanam no dadrikshunam Dehi bhagavatarchitam Rupam priyatamam svanam Sarvendriya gunanjanam Darshanam no dadrikshunam Dehi bhagavatarchitam rupam priyatamang svanam sarvendriya gunanjanam darshanang no didrikshunam Dehi bhagavatarchitam rupam priyatamang svanam sarvendriya gunanjanam darshanang no didrikshunam Dehi bhagavatarchitam rupam priyatamam svanam sarvendriya gunanjanam. Hear it? Darshanam no didrikshunam Dehi bhagavatarchitam rupam priyatamang svanam sarvendriya gunanjanam. Darshanang no didrikshunam Dehi bhagavatarchitam rupam priyatamang svanam sarvendriya gunanjanam. Darshanang no didrikshunam Dehi bhagavatarchitam rupam priyatamang svanam sarvendriya gunanjanam. Darshanang no didrikshunam Dehi bhagavatarchitam rupam priyatamam svanam. Darshanam, vision. Naha, hour. Didrikshunam, desirous to see. Dehi, kindly exhibit. Bhagavata, of the devotees. Architam, as worshipped by them. Rupam, form. Priyatamam, dearmost. Svanam, of your devotees. Sarva Indriya, all the senses. Guna, qualities. Anjanam, very much pleasing. Translation. So this is Lord Shiva. He's praying to the Lord and teaching the Prachetas, his song that they will sing for 10,000 years underwater. My dear Lord, I wish to see you exactly in the form that your very dear devotees worship. You have many other forms, but I wish to see your form that is especially liked by the devotees. Please be merciful upon me and show me that form, for only that form worshipped by the devotees can perfectly satisfy all the demands of the senses. Purport. In the Shruti or Veda mantra, it is said that the Supreme Absolute Truth is Sarva Kama, Sarva Gandha, Sarva Rasa, or in other words, he is known as Rasovaisaha, the source of all relishable relationships, rasas. We have various senses, the powers of seeing, tasting, smelling, touching, etc. And all the propensities of our senses can be satisfied when the senses are engaged in the service of the Lord. Vishikena, Vishikesha, Sevanam, Bhakti Uchyate. Bhakti means engaging all the senses in the service of the master of the senses, Vishikesha, from the Narada Pancharatra. These material senses, however, cannot be engaged in the service of the Lord. Therefore, one has to become free from all designations. Sarvopadi vinimuktam tatpadatvena nirmalam. One has to become free from all designation or false egotism and thus become purified. When we engage our senses in the service of the Lord, the desires or the inclinations of the senses can be perfectly fulfilled. Lord Shiva therefore wants to see the Lord in a form which is inconceivable to the Bauddha philosophers or the Buddhists. The impersonalists and the voidists also have to see the form of the Absolute. In the Buddhist temples there are forms of Lord Buddha in meditation, But these are not worshipped like the forms of the Lord in Vaishnav temples, forms like Radha Krishna, Sita Ram, or Lakshmi Narayan. Amongst the different sampradayas or Vaishnav sects, either Radha Krishna or Lakshmi Narayan is worshipped. Lord Shiva wants to see that form perfectly, just as the devotees want to see it. The words Rupam Priyatamam Svanam are specifically mentioned here, indicating that Lord Shiva wants to see that form which is very dear to the devotees. The word Svanam is especially significant because only the devotees are very, very dear to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. The Gyanis, Yogis, and Karmis are not particularly dear, for the Karmis simply want to see the Supreme Personality of Godhead as their order supplier. The Gyanis want to see Him to become one with Him, and the Yogis want to see Him partially represented within their heart as Paramatma. But the Bhaktas, or the devotees, want to see Him in His complete perfection, as stated in the Brahma Samhita 530, and you can chant along if you like, if you know. Venum kwanantam adavinda dalaya taksham barhavatang samasitam buddha sundarangam kandapakoti kamaniya vishesha shobham govindamadi purusham tamaham bhajami. I worship Govinda, the primeval Lord, who is adept at playing on his flute, whose eyes are blooming like lotus petals, whose head is bedecked with peacock feathers, whose beauty is tinged with the hue of blue clouds, and whose unique loveliness charms millions of cupids. Thus, Lord Shiva's desire is to see the Supreme Personality of Godhead as He is described in this way. That is, He wants to see Him as He appears to the Bhagavats, the devotees. The conclusion is that Lord Shiva wants to see Him in complete perfection and not in the impersonalist or voidist way. Although the Lord is one in His forms, Advaitam, Achyutam, Anadim, still His form as the young enjoyer of the gopis and companion of the cowherd boys, Kishora Murti, is the most perfect form. Thus, Vaishnavas accept the form of the Lord in His Vrindavan pastimes as the chief form. Om Jnana Timirandasya Jnanandana Shalakya Chakshu Unmidatam Mena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. I was born in the darkness of ignorance, but my spiritual master Srila Prabhupada opened my eyes with the torchlight of knowledge. I offer my humble obeisance unto Him and all members of Sri Parampara. So, does anyone else notice the very appropriateness, super appropriateness of this verse to our particular moment in history here? Well, let me see if I can define it. Last night, we opened the temple after, how long? A month? 6 weeks was closed. And what was the big attraction? The deities, the deity form. The deities form, the prasadam offered to the deities, and we were performing kirtan there. But the main attraction that was presented, there was no big kirtan where you could join in, and there was no class. There was a class, but that was a different venue. So, out of our many fans, many people who like to participate, 45 came basically to see the deities. So Krishna is very kind. He makes Himself accessible to us in our ignorance and our bondage. We're here in the material world, attracted by all kinds of forms and sounds and smells and touches and tastes that have nothing to do with Him, that are simply pale reflections of what we can experience in the spiritual world through Krishna's internal energy. So we're completely helpless. We're bound by deep, deep ignorance. Even the greatest philosophers and intellects, they have no idea. It's just they're all completely absorbed in this material energy. So how can people be saved? Krishna always remembers us. He never forgets. He's with us at every moment as a super soul. And just like a father, he says that Sarva Yonisha Kontaya Murtiyak Sabhavantaya Tasam Brahma Mahajoni Aham Bija Padak Pita. Pita means father. So there at the beginning, near the beginning of the 14th chapter, he says all the living beings, in every species of life, of all of them, I am the seed-giving father. I impregnate this material world, which acts as the mother, and people come out in so many different forms, and they've been coming out for billions of years, according to their different karma and different desires, modes of nature. So, but there is children. There is children, you know. And he is Surit Satam. He is the well-wishing friend and in the heart of all, eternally. Well-wishing means he always has the best wishes at heart. That's what Surit, that's why he would always sign his letters, your ever well-wisher. He's in the role of Krishna there. So that means that Krishna is concerned, and he has a plan for saving and reclaiming these living entities. Not all of them at once, obviously, but as many as possible as he can attract. So what's the plan? The plan is, of course, he has this reformatory where we're convinced, we should be convinced, life after life, there's really no happiness here and it's temporary. Dukkali and Mashashvatam. But we really don't learn that lesson unless we're in touch with the knowledge that Krishna gives. Now, we can't hear him from inside in the Supersoul, so he comes externally as the Shastra, Bhagavad Gita, Bhagavatam, the Vedas in general, and he comes as those who live the Shastra and who teach the Shastra. I was giving a little seminar yesterday, you heard, on the 10 root philosophies of 2 points of philosophy that Lord Chaitanya taught, called the Dashamula. Bhaktivinoda Thakur wrote a nice book expanding on that. And so the first point is Amnaya. Amnaya prahatatvam hadamiha padamam. Amnaya prahatatvam, that this Amnaya gives us access to the truth, speaks the truth that we can hear. That's all coming in this transcendental words, beginning with Krishna's enlivening Brahma, with the sound of the flute and initiating him in the Vedas. So it's coming down, and the Amnaya as delivered by the great soul, realized souls on the basis of the revealed scripture. That's our access to Krishna, basically, except for those few rare times when he comes himself, and teaches. Now, of course, he came 500 years ago as Lord Chaitanya, and 5,000 years ago as Lord Krishna. But how often does that happen? You know that? No? How often does that happen? That where Krishna personally comes? Well, that's once in a lifetime of Brahma, but he comes once in every day of Brahma, which is still over 8 billion years. So anyway, that's we're fortunate. I mean, Krishna came compared to the 600 million years, 5,000 years is just yesterday. So plus Lord Chaitanya came literally today, earlier today, this morning. Anyway, so we're fortunate in that regard. So what is he doing there? He's coming as himself. He's coming and he's teaching Bhagavad Gita, and he's leaving the Shastra, and he's leaving great souls, whole sampradayas, not just one sampradaya, there's 4 authorized sampradayas, who personify, who exemplify the teachings, and who give us the teachings. Now Prabhupada's, tremendous gift will be, sung throughout the rest of this universe time, is that he opened up the treasure house by translating it and coming himself to teach it. That translation is essential. Otherwise it would still be hidden there in Sanskrit and Bengali language. What would we be doing? So breaking it out, that was at a great sacrifice, obviously. So that's what we're benefiting from here. So now we have this Amnaya, we have this process, and in this particular verse, he's shifted gears. You notice how he's shifted gears? Rudra, Shiva is giving this song, and he's given us kind of a lot of technical information, about the different members of the Chatra Vyuha, the Vasudev, Sankarshan, Pradyumna, and Aniruddha, and their functions and all these different things, how the world comes about. Now he's talking in the bhakti mood. Really, he says, I want to see the most delightful form of yours that the devotees worship. And after this, we're going to have a really nice detailed description, not of two-handed Krishna, but of four-handed Vishnu, but in a very delightful way. So he's describing it. This is how we can see right now. We can see the deity. That's a big form of mercy, where Krishna agrees to appear through the influence of his pure devotees. I'll tell you a little story. Some of you have heard it before. We have some new people here. Ever heard it? Maybe you've never heard this. I was involved with the Ramakrishna mission, and they were trying to draw me in there. I wasn't involved with devotees yet. I didn't know about the temple, but I had become interested in bhakti. I think I got a book from the temple, and I was reading it, but I wasn't going there regularly. Anyway, so I got involved, and there was a very charismatic leader they'd brought in from India to replace Nikalananda Swami, who Prabhupada met. He had been running that center during the 60s and 70s, 50s and 60s. He'd written several books, one of which was a translation of the Sharirika Bhashya, which is Shankaracharya's impersonal commentary on the Vedanta Sutra, which I bought. And another one was the 11th canto. He didn't translate that, I don't think, but it was translated by one of the members of Ramakrishna Mission. And so 11th canto, Uddhava Gita. And that was like, I read that and that fascinated me, bhakti. Because I was chanting. Hare Krishna, not so seriously, 2 rounds a day, just kind of. But I was attracted. A very charismatic speaker had come to replace Nikalananda. He had had a stroke by the time I get there. So they would, after I started coming regularly and everything, they invited me to their Sunday lunch. I don't know if they got the idea from the Sunday feast or not, but they had a Sunday lunch about 2 o'clock. And not everybody was a vegetarian. In fact, the main leader wasn't a vegetarian. But I was not only vegetarian, I was raw food. I was trying, I was doing a lot of juices and sprouts and everything. I was always starved. I was always hungry. I didn't know what I was doing. So I would come and bring my own little lunch, So there was Nikalananda in a suit. They're all in suits, not dhotis or anything. And Nikalananda advised Prabhupada that he should give up the dhoti and not be so strict about the regulative principles if you want to preach here in America. And Prabhupada said, oh, that's all right. That's in the Lilamrita. So anyway, Nikalananda had a stroke, so he was silent. He was at the table, and some lady was feeding him. But the new guy was there that they brought in from India to replace him. Young man, mid-30s. And he had some, I heard that he had done some meditating in the Himalayas, So he had some powers. And I was blown away when he told me what my job was. I never told him. I worked in a hospital. And he just mentioned it to me. I said, oh my God, he's got mystic powers. So I was impressed. Anyway, I was getting involved there more and more. But I was still into bhakti, and I was looking, where's Krishna in all of this? And so I said, I wanted to chant a couple of rounds. Do you have any forms of Krishna that I can meditate on, Oh, yes, we have one up in the top floor. It's like an attic, you can go up there and sit in the room, fine. So I went up there, opened the room, and there was a little platform in the corner. And there was a single form, not Radha Krishna, just Krishna. You can buy 1 million, they're sold by the millions in India, of Krishna in white. I guess they used to make it out of ivory. It was probably plastic by the time I saw it. And he just had the flute, it was like that. So I said, okay, fine. So I sat there and chanted 1 or 2 rounds. And then I got a little curious, and I turned the light up, and I went closer, and it was like this much dust, There was like zero devotion. It was just, their philosophy was exactly as Prabhupada said, and that is that, for the emotional masses, this bhakti is, they need that because they need something to meditate on. And so, but then, Gyan is the real thing. And then when I started to show a little attraction for the Hare Krishnas, in order to bring me in, because he had very few young men, which is really what he's looking for, But he had a few, and he wanted to keep me. So he tried to break my faith. And he was saying these things about, about the emotional masses, real Gyan, and he was kind of blaspheming the devotees, criticizing. So instead of breaking my faith, he broke my faith in him, and I, got more attracted to the devotees, because it was just Gaur Purnima had just happened, and it was big kirtans. I think there was something in the park and everything, and I was into it. So this, the problem with the Mayavadis, they don't really have any faith in the form of the Lord. They don't want to see Krishna, they don't really care. They want to merge into the Brahman and lose their individuality. So I was fortunate. I never did read that book that I bought. Sri Bhaskar, Lord Chaitanya says if you expose yourself to that philosophy, everything is destroyed. So here, Rudra, or Shiva, who's the greatest devotee, he's teaching us how eager we should be to see the form of the Lord. Now, that brings up something that's, I can't avoid mentioning it at this juncture, it's very appropriate, is that we are so fortunate to have these deities. I've traveled around the movement, and all the deities are beautiful, believe me. But these deities have a special, sweet mood, compassionate mood. These Gaur-Nitai deities are unique. I mean, I love all the Gaur-Nitai deities, but Generally, they're looking up in the sky. The ones, these deities are looking right at you, and pouring out their love and their compassion. And so we should be eager. I remember when we used to have the greeting, we'd be chanting, Jaya Gornitai, Jaya Gornitai, and blow the conch, and they'd open it, Haribo Gornitai, and bow down, temple full of devotees. This is when I first came in. Right here at SanDiego. So, we understand the philosophy that, Krishna is actually there. It's not a statue, right? That's the main thing. Even if we don't understand it completely, that's what's going on. That Krishna is there personally, and he's relating to us, he's attracting us, giving us a mercy. We can't see his spiritual form because our eyes are practically blinded. But we can see stone, we can see wood, So he appears through that form. He doesn't appear as stone, but he appears through the stone because of the devotion of the guru and the acharya, and we can be attracted. We should be attracted, and that means, practically speaking, we should be here on time, ready to see the deities when he also wants to see us. So the curtain's open, and there's old Dravida there. Well, I know he's there, but who else is back there? Where's so and so? Where's so and so? I mean, if you say, okay, suppose Krishna really appeared on the altar and he was ready to come off the altar and dance in the arti, would everybody still be, saying, I got this to do, I have to finish one of my rounds? No. If he walked through the door, we advertise it, would everyone say, no, I got an appointment? So this is, we have to accept that because, so what he's showing us how eager we should be. He's teaching us how eager we should be to see the Lord. Now, the philosophy here, first of all, sarva gandha, sarva rasa, sarva kama. Krishna can attract all of our senses. There's a passage in the Antya Lila, it's very, very advanced, but it illustrates this, where telling about Lord Chaitanya's separation mood, which is constant for those last 12 years. And he's chanting a verse later included in the Govinda Lilamrita by Krishna's Kaviraj. And he starts off with one verse describing, spoken by Radharani, Srimati Radharani, describing how all of Krishna's attractions. It says, Saundaryamrita sindhu bangaladana chitta disamblavaka karnanandi sanarmadanda vachanok kotindushi tangaka saurabhyamata samblavava jatagat piyusharam yadhara shigo pendu satak sakarshidi baladpan chendriyanyalime. That Krishna, by force, he's attracting each one of my senses separately. And she goes through the Saundaryamrita sindhu. He's an ocean full of nectar, the greatest beauty, the waves of which are inundating the high hills of the consciousness of all the gopis. I mean, this is this ornate poetry, and the sound of his flute, the sound of his voice, is attracting my ears, and the fragrance is intoxicating my nose like that, So I'm not going to go through. Then for each of those points, she has another verse that's focusing on the beauty and the fragrance and like that. But what I'd like to do is share with you a few of the verses from the 10th canto, chapter 31. This is song, gopis in separation. Now, of course, this is as I say, beyond our pay grade, but still, Prabhupada gave us this in the Krishna book, and it's now been given to us, and we can contemplate these verses. So there's some that are a little intimate, I want to, but just the ones that they're eager to see him, and how eager the gopis. These are the ideal. So I pulled these out. So the first one is the very first verse of the series, 1031.1, which goes like this. Shri Gopi Uchu Jai. So the context is the rasa dance is about to begin. Actually, they've met in the forest, and Krishna, he teases them. He says, "Oh, so nice to see you. How can I? What can I do for you?" He's already attracted them with the flute. They've given up their household life. They've run away from their husbands and their children, and they're eager to. And he says, "Well, so nice you came out here. What can we do?" But actually, it's pretty dangerous out here. You should actually go back. He's teasing them. So then they have this song that they all sing, that they sing, we're not going anywhere, you attracted us out here, and say, okay, so then he smiles, and then they start strolling along the bank of the Yamuna. It's the prelude to the rasa dance. The gopis become a little proud, They're the most fortunate women in the universe, and they're with the most beautiful boy, and it's an idyllic scene, And as soon as they become a little proud, he disappears. He disappears, and Radharani disappears too, so she's with her, and then she gets proud, and he disappears from her. So now they're bereft, after all of this ideal situation, and Krishna's attracted. Now we're alone. And so they start wandering here and there, and they go mad in separation. They start enacting Krishna's pastimes, and still he doesn't come back. And finally they go looking for that one gopi who's missing, and it's Radharani, and they find her, and they all get together, and after looking some more, they finally go back to the bank of the Yamuna, and they start singing this song in separation. It's very famous. There's a lot of commentaries on it. So it's a unique meter, beautiful. This is the first one, and it's this is the first verse, and it's kind of like a refrain for the song. You can sing it after each verse. Gopi Uchu, anyone who knows it can sing along. Jayati te dikam janmana vrajak Shrayate indara shashvaratrahi Dayate drishyatam dikshutamakas Tvahitvata sabas tvan vachinvate. Notice the word drishyatam, which is this different phase of this darshanam, to show us. O beloved, the gopis are singing, your birth in the land of Braja has made it exceedingly glorious, and thus Indira, the goddess of fortune, always resides here. It is only for your sake that we, your devoted servants, maintain our lives. We've been searching everywhere for you, so please show yourself to us. So this is their mood, they're just asking to see him. And then another one comes in text 6. Vajajanarti han viryoshitam nijajanasmaya dhvangsanasmita Vajasake bhavat kinkadismano jadaruhananam charudarshaya. O you who destroy the suffering of Braja's people, O hero of all women, your smile shatters the false pride of your devotees. Please, dear friend, accept us as your maidservants and show us your beautiful lotus face. And one more, and that is text 15. There's only 19 verses in this chapter, and they're all precious jewels. Finally, Atidiyad bhavananikananam tutihu gayate tvama pashyatam Kutala kuntalam shimukam shate chadahu dikshitam pakshmakridvisham. When you go off to the forest during the day, a tiny fraction of a second becomes like a millennium for us because we can't see you. And even when we can eagerly look upon your beautiful face, so lovely with its adornment of curly locks, our pleasure is hindered by our eyelids, which were fashioned by that foolish creator. This comes up again and again in the Bhagavatam. Those who are seeing Krishna, they curse Brahma. And what kind of engineer is he? He created these eyelids in a split second of missing Krishna's vision. You can see that's the measure of how eager they are to see. So this is, of course, these gopis are all worshipable, and their desire to see Krishna is much to be desired and worked for, things to emulate and just aspire for. But the point is that we should be very eager to see Krishna, and we were given the chance to see him with the deities. And not only that, you see how they're seeing him now, by describing him, that's a form of seeing. I remember when I was a kid, I was really into literature. My mother was a teacher, a reading teacher. We had all kinds of books in the house. And I started out, with all kinds of science fiction. But then, I got into Dickens and all these things. And it was, it's a... Does the name Marshall McLuhan mean anything? You've heard? No? No. Okay. He was very popular in the 60s and 70s, and he had this whole theory of communication. And he had this idea of cold media and hot media. And cold media doesn't demand as much from you. You just plunk yourself down in front of the YouTube or the TV, and it all comes flowing at you. You don't have to use your imagination. Everything is there. The sounds are there. The sights are there. You can imagine the smells if there are anything. But it doesn't demand as much from you. Reading a novel or reading description of Krishna demands that you actively use your imagination. In other words, you have to take those words and visualize what's going on, or, in other words, it's more involved. So I was I was always fascinated. I just entered into these novels, and you're living in a different place, So we're given so much, when Prabhupada started this movement, what did he have? He had the first canto, and there were some pretty dramatic things that go on in the first canto. Devotees were very fascinated, and of course the philosophy is there. That's another way of involving the reader. You have to think and so forth. That's another thing that literature does. But as well, but after some time, Prabhupada realized they're chanting Hare Krishna, and it's good that but they really don't know who Krishna is, what he did. So he stopped the Bhagavatam, the formal Bhagavatam that he was doing, and he gave us Krishna book, 1970. And Krishna, and especially he was very eager to have the pictures, the paintings, even though some of them were pretty crude. You look at those old paintings, But they were done with devotion. There's a certain delightful mood there, Yeah, you can see that. I remember some of those, there's the killing of Keshi, and there's this big purple horse, upside down, and Krishna's got the mouth in there. They're almost comical, but anyway. So suddenly, now there's all of these imageries and descriptions of Krishna in detail that devotees didn't have. So it really raised the consciousness of the whole movement. Everybody read those Krishna books. We'd read them every night before going to sleep. So my point is, because the whole point of this verse that we just studied was Shiva praying for the Lord to reveal his form. And we may not, be able to have as much eagerness, but by hearing these verses of devotees who are eager, that also rubs off on us. This is the principle of Sangha. Sangha can come through the pages of the book. Prabhupada says at one point in the first canon, we were so appreciative to Narada Muni, who so kindly appeared in these pages of the Bhagavatam. So the idea is that this has to be cultivated, and by the process of devotional service, Prabhupada's talking about the senses here. Rishikena, Rishikesha, Sevana, Bhakta Ruchate. This definition of bhakti in the beginning of Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu. Sava upadi vinimuktam tatpadatvena nimana Rishikena, Rishikesha, Sevana, Bhakta Ruchate. To be free of all designations. In other words, not to be identifying yourself with the physical body that is born in a certain place, speaks a certain language, family. All of that is illusory. It's all just very transient. But we are, as our souls, we are spiritual beings with spiritual senses, which are now covered. So the process is purification of our material senses by engaging them in the service of the Lord. I don't know if you picked up on it, but there was a seeming contradiction here, where Prabhupada says, these material senses, however, cannot be engaged in the service of the Lord. But then if the whole point is Rishikena, Rishikesha, Sevanam. But then a few sentences later he talks about, and when you engage in the Lord with these senses, they become purified. So the idea is that we can't engage fully in the service of the Lord spiritually with these material senses. But by engaging in the service of the deity, engaging in the service of the mantra, by chanting it and hearing it, it's not a material sound, but our ears are material and covered over. But by chanting sincerely, the senses become purified, and gradually the spiritual senses become able to work through the material senses. So we can see, how Prabhupada saw the deities. We didn't see the deities that way. We're appreciating the beauty, and we're praying to Krishna like that. But he's actually talking to the deities. He's seeing Krishna because those senses are purified. So this is what we have to work with. This is part of the mercy of Krishna, is that he's given us these bodies, because we want them to be separate, but he's also given us a way that we can purify ourselves of the identification with the body, so that we can eventually become pure even within this material body. And that's what this whole idea is. With our present senses, serving the master of the senses, purifying them. Atakshi Krishna namadi namavegrayam indriyai seva mukha hijivado swayam eva sparatida. Now the very important last line. It begins with, we cannot perceive the Lord with our present materially covered senses. Shri Krishna, the name, form, qualities, etc. of the Lord with our present senses. Nabhavegraham. But if you begin serving the Lord with the tongue, chanting, tasting prasad, of course hearing, eventually you purify yourself enough, the Lord reveals himself. He takes the initiative and reveals. Just like he's taking the initiative when he knows we're hearing about him, of purifying within the heart. He's purifying, means that we become more and more attracted to see. So that why are the curtains closed? Like they have this thing in India, they do it here sometimes in festivals. Close, open, close, open, right? So it's a meeting separation right there. That's the whole idea. So this verse and this whole song, Prabhupada quotes from Brahma Samhita. So what is that? Just that first line. If you know the meaning, that's why I always stress that. If you know the meaning of the words, then that word Venam Kwananta, you can hear the flute. Just like if I'm reading a novel and he's talking about the beautiful sound, then you hear in your mind's eye. You hear. So we try Venam Kwanantam, and then the beauty of the Lord's lotus petal eyes stretched out at the wind of the Layataksham. You can recall maybe the deity, That's the value of these. It gives them, it forces the mind by these vibrations. If you surrender to it, and cultivate, it forces the mind to meditate on Krishna. And since he's all attractive, eventually the mind doesn't need to be forced. This is one of the verses of Kapila Muni to his mother. He's defining what is pure bhakti, and he says, Madguna Shruti-matrena sarva bhuta guhashaye manogatira vichinam yata gangamba sombudao. God, I can't believe I remember that verse. I reviewed it recently. But the key is Madguna Shruti-matrena. Simply, matrena means only, by hearing my qualities being chanted. Of course, they should be chanted by a devotee, a pure devotee if possible. Madguna Shruti-matrena sarva bhuta guhashaye. I who am residing in the hearts of all. So he's also responding to this. When you're hearing with great eagerness, then the super soul understands that, and he's giving you more attraction. Then the symptom is manogati avichinam, that the mind's activities, manogati avichinam, without deviation, without stoppage, are absorbed in that sound vibration of hearing Krishna's qualities, name, form, instructions. Just as the Ganges, when it's flowing into the sea, is really broad, you can't stop it. There's no way to stop it. Great, powerful force. That's how the mind should be so attracted to Krishna. And you read about that. You can read about that in the CC, especially. And Prabhupada, there's so many pastimes. Janmashtami, he had the devotees read Krishna book, starting at 9 and going to 12. So they were reading. It described the sannyasis were there. They were falling asleep. All their dandas were starting to go down. But Prabhupada was not. He was hearing and drinking it all in constantly. With great eagerness. Finally, he said, "Okay, go take some prasad or whatever." So that's the sign of advancement, is where the mind is just attracted to hear beautiful. And we have such a treasure chest, beginning with Bhagavatam, Bhagavad Gita. Prabhupada has given us, and that's expanded. We have Briya Bhagavatamrita. We have, I snuck in the Govinda Viradavali and the Padyavali into the database, so you can, just key it in, and then it could be the Rupa Goswami's Nectar File. His favorite verses: Vepande duditani mohamahima sammohamalambate satankam nakaranjinim Kalayati Shri Chitta Gupta Kati Sanandam Madaparka Sammadivado Veda Karotyudhamam Vacham Bhaktam Taveshware Abilishate Bhumakamanyakpara. So he's saying, this is like anonymous, I think. He said, when someone simply desires to chant your name, hasn't chanted yet, but it has the inclination to chant, then all of his sinful reactions become very fearful and shrink away. And the power and the prowess of Mahamaya, Moha, faints away. In other words, becomes weak. And the Chitragupta, who keeps record of all our sins, who present to Yamaraj at the end, He says he looks with fear and awe at the wonderful, beautiful toenails of such a person, delightful toenails. And Lord Brahma, he begins preparing the Madhuparka to worship such a person. What more can I say at the end of this verse? Is Brahmakamanya. In other words, that's just one of the many verses. So we have a great treasure chest. We should take advantage of it, purify our consciousness, and be eager to see, offer prayers to the deity, and glorify the deity, and chant and pray and bow down, and mostly be eager to see and be seen by the deity on time, every day. Okay, I'll stop there. Any questions on any of these points? Okay, wait a minute. We have a mic.
Can those who practice impersonalism, can they eventually evolve into practicing devotional service?
Well, you have to say yes, because the Chaitanya Charitamrita has several very dramatic instances of that. But they came in direct touch with Lord Chaitanya, who said, Mayavadi Bhashya Sunale Hoy Sarvanash, which means if you just hear the impersonal commentary of the Vedanta Sutra, then your devotion is finished. Sarvanash. So he's warning not to mess with it. In other words, those who are really philosophically very astute and are kind of authorized, they can learn about it. And for refuting it, if you're going to come up against some real Mayavadis, we generally don't see Mayavadis are those who study carefully the Bhashya and they're convinced and they're ready to argue and everything. You don't see that so much here. But we should know the basic arguments that Srila Prabhupada gave against Mayavad that he presented to us. A good place to start is the 7th chapter of the Adi Leela, where there's an extensive translation of some of Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati's commentary. But generally it's very difficult. But because people aren't really dyed in the wool, impersonalists, then if they come in touch with devotees then they can become cured of that. And so you find that, I was a gross atheist. I wasn't really, I remember as a child, I don't know if I should repeat this, but because I was raised as a communist, and so I'm just a kid, I'm railing at the sky, and with an epithet, and curse words against God. And now I'm thankful I didn't get struck down by lightning at that point. I think he didn't take it seriously. Maybe making me a devotee was Krishna's way of playing a joke on me. Anyway, I'm still trying to be a devotee. But the answer is sure. The power of Krishna's name and the association and prasadam is so great that all kinds of people with all crazy kinds of philosophies, including impersonalism, have joined this movement, given it up. So, not to despair. Anyone else? Anything else? Nothing online? Okay. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Thank you.